So, welcome everybody, the big crowd. We are happy to have at least so many people. The reason behind this fact that we are not so many is that it won't be a very technical deep dive presentation talk. We will talk rather less interesting topics like your career, your next job, better salary and so on, or more precisely about open cloud certifications that may help you in these topics. So first, let me introduce myself. I'm Erno Erdelyi, CEO of Componentsoft, and I also have here my excellent colleagues, Ágoston, Deim, and Csaba Patyi, who are the real technical experts who really did these certifications, the exams, and after my general introductions, they will talk about the technical tips and tricks of these exams. And wow, we also have more people, so we can really start it. Firstly, a slide about our company. I'm 100% sure that you don't know at all about our company, or very little, maybe probably much less than about OpenStack, Docker, and Kubernetes, which are our main topics. So our company has quite a long history, 20 plus years, which is a huge amount of time in the IT. We based in Budapest, Hungary, and operating in whole Europe, the UK included, and even beyond by partners in the USA and Australia. Our main topics are open source softwares generally, and more open cloud technologies specifically, which here means OpenStack, Docker, Kubernetes, and Ceph as well. What can be interesting for you as well, to give you some information and credit about our company. So these are the vendor certifications for us. The most interesting here is that we are one of the few companies, training vendors globally, whose OpenStack trainings are promoted, offered on the OpenStack webpage on the training marketplace. And a few examples of our customers, so the biggest ones. One of the biggest customers of ours is the globally largest telco vendor, which is Ericsson. We deliver really a big amount of trainings for them in whole Europe. Second interesting customer is the European largest telco operator, Deutsche Telekom Group, where we educate their operating teams, for instance, the operating teams which administers the open telecom cloud. You can see their booths over there. And we also have one big British customer, which happens to be in the defense industry, so we cannot name them. But we delivered quite a few trainings in open cloud topics, and not directly for them, but for their customers. Okay, now let's go further and to the real interesting things for you. To speak about these OpenStack, Docker, and Kubernetes certifications, it's better to start with their size, their market value, and also the value of certifications. So I show you two interesting slides about this. The first one is a chart about the popularity of these skills in the past few years. It's from Indeed.com. This is an important US job site and practically shows the percentage of job postings containing these skills, so these keywords. What you can see here is that OpenStack is fluctuating more or less in the recent years, so not growing recently. On the other hand, Docker has tremendous growth, and it's far the most popular technological skill in this area, as Docker, as you may know, is a general standard, one and only standard for containerizations. And Kubernetes, the third topic, so probably the most popular container orchestration tool, is becoming also very popular, growing quickly, and almost reached the same level of popularity as OpenStack. As you can see, these data are from the middle of this year, so the trends may have continued in the meantime. The second statistics survey here is a survey, a jobs report from the Linux Foundation, and this is from the current year. And it says that on one side, hiring managers are very excited to hire open source professionals, and especially with open cloud skills. This is the most popular skill from open source knowledge recently. And on the other hand, if we talk of certifications, both hiring managers and IT professionals say that certification gives extra value on the job market and provide better chances for good jobs and good salaries. Okay, so these are the basics, and we can go on about the certifications one by one. The first will be the Docker certification, which will be the shortest part, because Docker certification still doesn't exist, or at least the official Docker certification is still under development. What we already know is that, of course, it will be created by Docker Incorporated, so the company owning the technology. The first basic certification is under development and is in beta testing, and it will be announced and generally available in mid-October on DockerCon Europe in Copenhagen. So in quite a short time, you can even do this certification. What we don't know exactly, but only guess, is that this certification will be based on the content of the official Docker course, Docker Fundamentals course. You can easily check the content on the web. And by the way, we also have our own Docker administration training, which has the same topics, actually, and which we will definitely modify when the exam will be available, and we know what to insert, what to include more in the training. Okay, that was a short introduction to Docker certification. And the next topic, which may be the most important, most interesting for you now, and where we know much more, is the OpenStack certification. There are some vendor certification in this area, but the one we are talking about now is the certification of the OpenStack Foundation, so the official one, which is a vendor-neutral certification and was created together with the Linux Foundation. The Linux Foundation has a long history and lots of experiment in creating and managing open source certifications. What are interesting features here is that this is an online exam, so you don't have to walk to a certain place. You can do it from anywhere and at any time, given that you registered yourself before. It's a hands-on exam, so you have to solve real-life problems, so it's not a multiple choice test type of exam. And it's a proctored one as well. So be prepared that somebody at the other end of the world will watch you through your webcam and even listen to you through your microphone. So you cannot do dirty tricks. Of course, this is the reason behind it. Currently, the exam uses the Newton release, so not the newest one. And the release, the exam release, is typically changing in each year, sometime in spring or early summer. So the next probable exam changing will happen in next year, around mid next year, to the PICA release. Okay. What is also important, it will be 2.5 hours long, not so long compared to the Kubernetes one, as you will see. The passing score is quite high, on the other hand, so 76%. And expect a report and answer about your performance in 3 working days. Okay. For registering, you first have to buy a voucher, an exam voucher, which costs $300, and which is valid for 1 year. Okay, so you have tremendous time to think over and start the exam. And what is also important, you have a free retake, which can be quite valuable. So maybe you will learn the structure, the logic of the exam with your first take and make a successful exam at your second one. Okay. After a successful exam, your certification will be valid for 3 years, quite a long time nowadays. And we have lots of experience with this exam, as we participated even in the beta phase in last spring, before it was released. So we were able to build in our experiences into our related course, the OpenStack admin training, which not only instruct daily administration work, but also prepares delegates for this exam. And we have a special prize training plus exam bundle as well. Okay, now that was a general introduction to this exam. And luckily enough, we have Csaba here, my excellent colleague, an OpenStack and Docker expert, and he will tell you more details and more tricks and tips about the exam.
Hi, everybody. So as my manager mentioned before, it is a web-based online exam. So the only thing what you will require to have and only thing what you actually can have on your desktop is your laptop or your desktop PC. You have to have a webcam, and you have to prove that you are alone in the room and stuff like that. And the thing what you will have to prepare, that you will have only your browser, only the browser can be opened, and only that one tab which is related to the exam. And the way how it will look like, on the very left side on your browser, you will see the practical tests, what you have to do: create a certain virtual machine with a certain name, with in a certain project and stuff like that, and attach a volume to it. So that's the left side, and the bigger 2/3 part of the browser, you will see the working area, I would say, with 2 sub-tabs. One of them, if you click on it, you will see a command line interface, actually a Linux shell, of course, where you can type. And the other one, if you click on, you will see the web user interface, the Horizon. My tip for you, that if you are preparing for this exam, I would recommend to do as much task as possible on the Horizon. It's not a common use case on a daily work, but every task will be different from one and each other. So in one task, you have to do something as an admin user. The next task, you have to do something as user A in domain B. And it's really easier to make mistakes if you are typing all those environment variables in the command line interface. So I advise everybody to, at least in the exam, learn the Horizon dashboard and do it on the Horizon dashboard, because if you are logged in, it's really easy to see the environment what you are logged in. So on the top right, unfortunately, I don't have a screenshot for the Horizon right now, but on the top right, you will see the username you logged in. On the top left, on the Horizon, you see the domain, what you are currently in, and the project what you are currently in. So you are not making mistakes that yet you are creating correct virtual machine, but in the wrong project or something like that. And my other tip will be to learn screen or tmux. Those are special command line utilities what you can use to split the screen. You know, normal sysadmins used to have that tendency that I'm starting 5 or 6 terminals, at least 3 minimum. So at least on one terminal I'm reading the manual page or the help, and the other terminal I just start typing my command what I want to run. Unfortunately, you cannot start a second or a third SSH session against this environment. So you have to learn some tricks in order to be able to split the screen for the shell and being able to move forward. All the tasks are independent, so it's around 30 tasks what you have to do in the exam, and there is no problem like because you weren't able to do that task 6, you are not able to do that task 11, for example. So all are independent tasks, and around 90% of the tasks can be solved by Horizon. And there's a helpful tip if there is a task which is not supported by a Horizon, there will be a funny sentence that it might be easier if you are using the command line client. That's actually only doable by the command line client, so try to use that. Usually Swift-related tasks, Swift with expiry date option and ACL options, which is not currently supported by the dashboard Horizon. At least in the Newton version, it was not supported. I'm not sure about the Pika. I didn't check that yet. Is there any questions regarding how the exam looked like or anything else? Yes? Okay, so just for the record, the question was, is there any list of topics? Yes, if you go to the Certified OpenStack Admin official website, you will see all the topics, but basically you have to know the 6 major OpenStack component: Nova, Neutron, Cinder, Glance, the Swift as an object store, and you be able to use the Horizon, of course, and also Keystone, because you have to create users and stuff. So these are covered. What is not covered is the rest. So you don't have to use, for example, the Trove, so database as a service or something advanced is not in the exam, at least not yet. But all the topics are available in the website, the official website, yes. Any other questions? No, if there is no other question, then I'm handing over back to my boss. So, but we are available.
Okay, so we will be here after the talk, for instance, at our booth. You can easily find it at the toilets, at the very popular and important part of this building. So what else? Now, the next and last but not least important exam is the Certified Kubernetes Administrator, or CKA, exam and certification, which just arrived to us, to the public, on the 11th of September. It's also a vendor-neutral certification, which was created by the Cloud Native Computing Foundation and the Linux Foundation together. You must know the Linux Foundation. You may not heard about the Cloud Native Computing Foundation, or CNCF. Actually, CNCF is a sub-foundation of the Linux Foundation, and it owns Kubernetes, Prometheus, and several other cloud-native technologies. Kubernetes was originally developed by Google and was donated to this foundation sometime in 2015. And from that time on, we can talk about Kubernetes. So as this exam was also created by the Linux Foundation, its features are very similar to the COA, the OpenStack exam. So online, again, proctored, and hands-on exam, or what we are talking now. Regarding the Kubernetes version, it now uses 1.6, and it is said, excuse me, it's my daughter, and found me also here. So the Kubernetes exam will be soon upgraded to 1.8, a brand new version, not available yet, but is set to be available and to be used by the exam still in this year. It's a really long exam, 4 hours long. Agoston will tell you about this fact more, but you have to prepare for a long and tiring exam. The passing score is similar to the OpenStack one, 74 instead of 76, not a big difference. And again, in 3 days, you will get a report about your success or failure. Generally available, okay. It's about your daily hands-on administrator skills managing Kubernetes systems. The same price for the exam vouchers and actually the same rules. So it's valid for 1 year, contains a free retake, very useful here again, but only valid for, so the certification itself is only valid for 2 years, which is a little less. And here again, we participated in the beta testing, which ran in late August and early September. So we learned about the content, the style, the typical questions. And we are right now building in these new topics into our Kubernetes admin course, which is available alone, also as part of a Docker plus Kubernetes combined training, and even as a bundle, exam plus training bundle. And a useful website there about the exam details, and an even more useful person, Agoston, will tell you more about the details, technical details.
Hello. And okay, so what Csaba told is the same because the exam environment is the same. You have to have a webcam. You have to provide a proctor full access to your computer. Just they want to see that whether you have some other software running on that or not. But there's a very big difference because you can use official documentation. So only Chrome, because you have to use Chrome because they use a Chrome extension to supervise your work, and it provides access to the webcam and so on. And you can use multiply tabs, and you can use the official documentation and other documentation as well. And why is that? Because this exam is very long and it's very complicated. It has a lot more tasks than the OpenStack exam. I don't think it's against the non-disclosure agreement that I can tell you that there's more than 30 questions. So it can take long. Some questions are just like, just like one command, but they have lots of very complex scenarios. So you have to use it daily. What's prohibited? To use predefined templates or predefined YAML files specifically created for the exam. So, for example, okay, I know the questions because I took the exam, and I just create special files. You pay for somebody or for me, and you can just download and, okay, it's magic. It's instead of 4 hours, you just spend 30 minutes and you solved everything. So it's not allowed, but you can use the official documentation because Kubernetes is changing a lot. You have a lot more ways to reach the same goal, just like you can use YAML files in some cases, or you can use the command line and kubectl. And that's why you can use the documentation. And this is the reason behind this. So the pre-created templates are prohibited, but you can use Google search and everything. Okay, and it's very important that this exam, so after the exam, when they evaluate your score, they will use scripts. And the scripts won't see or won't watch your performance, but they will just, it's just programmed. So they are looking for the YAML files, what they ask you to write a YAML file and put it into that place. Or they're looking for a a pod. So you have to do exactly what they are required to do, because that was a, not debate, but it was a question. So should I do this as a best practice or as the exam requests? For example, if they say you have to create a pod, you won't create a deployment with one pod. In real life, you would create a deployment only if it just consists one pod. But in the exam, the script will look for the YAML file or the one pod, and if it sees it's a deployment, you won't get a score for that. Okay, and some other practical advice, you have to use Kubernetes daily if you want to succeed in the exam, because they have lots of questions, and sometimes it's very complex, and it's not just the daily usage, just like to scale up a deployment for, let's say, with 5 instances of a specific pod, but you have to get used to manually installing Kubernetes, because maybe they will ask it. Or you have to know about the encryption, how can you use encryption with Kubernetes, and yeah. So these are not just the typical questions, just like, okay, just deploy a pod, or just fire up a container, or just stuff like that. And just coming back, the kubectl, how many do you know kubectl explain? Okay, this is like a help topic or a manual page, like something. And okay, if you're unsure and you don't want to use Google and you just need one option to know about that, or what is required, because a kubectl explain, let's say you say kubectl explain pod, it will tell you, okay, what options are required, and so on. And sometimes it's much faster to create a deployment and with kubectl, but sometimes maybe they ask you to add some annotations and so on. What you cannot do with the kubectl on the command line. But if you use the option wide, you know, it will give you back, it will print out the YAML file, or in the YAML, and you can just, or with O YAML, and you can just redirect it to a file, get rid of what you don't need, and put the extra lines what you need into that YAML file. And you can just save a lot of time. So just like, and yeah, as Erno told, it can take 4 hours. The official time is 4 hours. And I can assure you that it will take at least 3 hours. So eat before the exam, or if you have some medical condition, just that you have to drink, or you have diabetes or something like that, you have to tell it to the proctor before the exam. And it's advised, because they don't know anything about the exam. They just know the rules that you cannot eat, you cannot drink, and they get mad a bit if you not behave like you expected. But that's a proctored exam, in a way. That's all. Do you have any questions regarding the test? Okay, thanks.
By the way, how many of you already use Kubernetes? Quite a few. And do you already know about this exam? I mean, before listening to this presentation, or it was brand new? So how many of you have already tried to pass this Kubernetes exam? Nobody. Okay, so it's a very good place to be here. I'll learn about it, because it can be really useful in your career later. Good. So if you don't have any more question, we can finish this presentation with the last slide. But even if you didn't tell us about your questions, as I mentioned, you can find us at our booth till the end of this event. So ask anything and come there to learn more about these certifications, and of course also about our related trainings, because we offer related OpenStack, Docker, and Kubernetes trainings, also in the UK. We already delivered quite a few private courses and started to offer public form courses as well. You can see the details in our leaflet. And on the other hand, we are looking for new part-time instructors. We already have one OpenStack instructor from Manchester who delivers the OpenStack courses, but Docker and Kubernetes are brand new topics, and we are more than happy to discuss with potential candidates. What we can offer here, besides of course good salary, we can offer free Docker, Kubernetes, or OpenStack education and certification, and also background help at their first trainings, firstly in a safe internal environment, so not for customers, and later for customers. And if you succeed to become an instructor, we can provide you assignments in the UK, but also elsewhere in Europe. Okay, so this is the end of our presentation. You can still ask questions now or later at our booth. Thank you for your attention.